This was not an easy narrative to write. And thankfully, to help ease my trepidation in compiling my thoughts for this video, I did get to drive this 718 twice, and 1 month apart as we were making this comparison video. Because, to be honest, the first time I drove it, and without any restrictions from the owner who was in my 987S seen here in the video, I was blown away by the differences, and I mean blown away. First, the facts. The 987S is a 2008 3.4 litre 6-cylinder Tiptronic with 39,000 miles. It weighs 2,987 pounds and it is heavily modified. The 718S is 2017 2.0 turbo PDK 4-cylinder with 18,000 miles, with a weight of 2,988 pounds. It also has a modified exhaust and pedal box. The 718 is about an inch longer than the 987, and they're both the same width. I was surprised by these dimensions actually, because the 718 actually looks a lot bigger, but it's really not. The 987 is modified with race headers, a valved exhaust intake in interior mods, Vivid Racing tune with a red line of 7,200. She's loud. With the mods, the horsepower is at 324. The 718 from the factory comes in at 350, probably add another 10 or so for the exhaust modifications. The price difference between the two, including the mods on the 987, is a little less than double. Now, which one did I prefer? And I'm putting that word in quotes because there is so much to love about both. And some things I absolutely loved about the 718, but also some things that I certainly had reservations about, which we'll get into. There's a section later in the video where we push them both flat out from around 60 miles an hour to a lot. And you can clearly see the 718 pulling away from the 987. No problem there. But is that alone worth almost twice the price? That's a good question. But the speed of the 718 turbo, that torque, was the first thing that blew me away the first time that I drove it. The power is simply effortless. It is smooth and feels incredibly light, planted but light. The brakes are lightning sharp. She just glides. And when you stab the gas, it responds and just seems to keep going and going and going. The second time I drove the 718, I knew that the power was going to be there. So it wasn't as much of a wow factor, but it still put a huge smile on my face. The 987 in comparison feels heavy. I remember comparing them after the first drive and I thought that was literal. But now it's a matter of the amount of power and torque that the 718 has available. This could also be likely due to the age difference with 9 years between them. And also that the 718 has electric steering, which could have been contributing to that feeling of lightness that I experienced both times. The sound from the modified exhaust was not terribly impressive to me. Now again, I'm coming from my 987S that has race headers and a valve system that tops out at 111 decibels. So again, maybe I'm spoiled with sound from the 987. I didn't experience a lot of turbo lag in the 718. There was only one point around 45 miles per hour when I hit the gas and I felt that second or second and a half of lag, but it's barely perceptible. I have owned my 987 going on 3 years. I really do love it, and the results of the modifications I've done. With the sprint booster on the highest setting and the valved exhaust open, she is a screaming monster. She sings, she howls, she flies along, hugging the ground, giving back the most excellent feedback. The 718 hauls like a hawk, but it does so without much drama. So I must like the drama of a 6-cylinder unbridled Porsche Boxster engine. The interior of the 718 is quite lovely, a wonderful upgrade on that of the 987. The driving position is almost identical, and I could get quite comfortable with all of that for sure. I think one of my favourite mods on the 987 was the addition of a replica 718 wheel. It really modernised the interior. So over breakfast that day, after the run with my friend and the owner of the 718, he asked me would I switch from the 987. My boy side said no. My more mature self said yes. And that's where I sit. Yes and no. That's why this narrative was really hard to write. I really still can't make up my mind. I think this 718 could be really transformed with a full race valved exhaust system and a set of coilovers and stiffer springs. Then I would switch. Thanks LB for letting me hammer your 718S. She's a beauty.